thank you for everyone for showing up and being here and being a part of this Spotlight series. Um, if you could, just raise your hands like this, give yourself a little victory pose. Yeah, everyone together. Awesome. It's a challenge just to create the space in time to join virtual events lots of times. And um, the journey in the last 6 months, like a lot of us, as things have been changing and evolving, has been a big learning process for all of us. And so, when we started with the whole pandemic, we launched our Corona Times virtual adventure, which many people participated from all over the world, and that was a very exciting venture into the virtual world for us. And since then, I decided to reach out and start to learn from as many different people as I could, and figure out who's doing this stuff well, and all the different types of virtual programming for our corporate clients and for facilitators and for our staff. And in doing so, um, I have put together this, list of 6 top presenters for the Spotlight series, which is taking place today, kicking it off with the great John Lucy here. And then 5 other presenters. We got Robert Strong coming up on Thursday, and they're all at 1:00 Mountain Time, Tuesday and Thursday for the rest of the month, with magic and virtual entertainment, which is going to be an unbelievable show. Great guy. We have gaming and virtual gaming platforms with whodunits and murder mysteries and various different scavenger hunts from home and trivia challenges coming up as well. We have experiential team initiatives for one of our spotlights with Jim Kane, which was an amazing facilitator. Give back events featuring Matt Campanin, the Hands of Gratitude, and other give back virtual events. And then we're launching our Adventure Spotlight series with Ken Lubin and special guests, which is going to be very, very exciting, interviewing some amazing adventure athletes and business people about, stories and strategies for how we can navigate our ever-evolving, uncertain times that we're going through. So, the process that we've been going through has been, I'm happy to be sharing this with you. And today, what I'd like to, this introduction of this first program is really about giving the mastery of the virtual world with tools and strategies. So John is going to be introducing a whole variety of different concepts. And so the idea here is to give you some tools, some strategies, and have some fun in the process while we're going through this. So one question for you, what I'd like to hear from, and there's lots of different people that have been registered from different walks of life. We have corporate planners, we have business people, we have some family and friends, we have some facilitators. So in the chat room, if you would, just type in a few words about why you're here today. Just give me a few words in the chat room, if you would, so we can just hear from everyone and see kind of the reasons why we're why we're going. I know, Cal, you want that laughter stretch. We can all start with laughing. And so today, let's just jump right in today. So mastering the virtual world, tools and strategies. John Lucy, just give you an introduction of John. We first met back in the experiential world at one of Tom Leahy's conferences. And, John is a master facilitator, and he's been working for many, many years, started with a lot of us in the outdoor education world doing outdoor adventure type programming. And the evolution of his work has been primarily in learning and development and with corporate work. And he's been doing virtual types of programs for, I guess 15 plus years. And about a year and a half ago, we reconnected when he was designing a corporate experiential training program for an experiential education conference. And we did a podcast, and we were talking about the design for some of the experiences that we wanted to create. And so we started talking, and as soon as the pandemic hit, we just decided to have an hour-long meeting, like kind of a mini mastermind, if you will, and to see what would evolve. And so one of the products of the Spotlight series is brainstorming with ideas and ways that we can offer some tools and resources that people are going through on different ways to connect. So this is what we're doing today, and very excited to have John leading the way for this particular this particular spotlight series. So without further ado, I will toss it over to John Lucy. Let's give him a big round of applause. Yeah, John.
Yay.
Yeah, you can do the
All
hand.
right. Well, before we jump into anything, let's take a little bit of time to connect. And in just a minute, I'm going to put a link into the chat. And what we're going to do with that link is just give your quick thoughts on what was the best, absolute best virtual meeting or event you've ever been to. And what's going to happen is when I share it in the chat, all you have to do is click on that link, and it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. Can everybody see? Give me a thumbs up if you can see the Mentimeter screen. Great. Now it says you get 3 words. You can actually resubmit. So if you have a lot of words or phrases you want to use about the absolute best virtual event or conference you've ever attended, you can resubmit things. So go ahead and you can start submitting those answers. And what's going to happen is we're going to build a word cloud. And it's fun to do. It's fun to see what different people have to say. Submit those, and we'll see where we go from here. But today, what we want to do is we want to latch into the best of virtual meetings. Now, you hear a lot of people talking about what's wrong with virtual meetings, but if we can figure out and crack the nut of what makes virtual work, that's what we're walking along here. And it's
But John, you have the toss up the link into the chat.
There's the link. That's one of the things about the chat thing is that it scrolls like a roulette machine sometimes. So I'm going to post the link there. It's already in there. It's in there a couple of times, and you can see we're starting to build this out here. So those are the things that really make it work. Is there anything particular? I see in the chat, I see some drum circle stuff that's also in there. Were there any topics that really stood out as opposed to others when you started working on this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite things to do when I'm leading virtual workshops is using programs like Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere, or even the internal polling thing within Zoom, because you can get, first of all, interaction, but also I'm learning about what you guys think about when you think about really engaging meetings. I see the name that tune. Somebody, I know that Ken has led those before. Interactive, inspirational, fun, encouraging. And if you know how word clouds work, the bigger the word, the more that has occurred as you all go in there. And we'll come back in just a minute to take a look at where you guys are going with the interactive things. But I also want to share that throughout this whole workshop, the spotlight that we're doing, if you return in your polling link that you have, you also, at the bottom, it says ask a question. So if you have a question about what we're talking about, or you want some clarification, what we'll do is you can put the question there, and after I'm done presenting, we'll go to that Q&A piece so that your questions can be addressed. Tim has some questions I know that he'll have for me because he's Tim. And we will be able to address all your guys' wonderful questions in there. So let's dive in. Let me tell you a little bit about why this has become important to me. And I'm clicking around right now. I'm going to spotlight myself just for a minute here. So why is this important to me? Well, back in the day, I was involved. I was in a large corporate, award-winning corporate university. We won awards for our leadership development and training, and also some of our sales training. But in 2009, webinars for our organization became a big thing. And so we started doing webinars. And we brought our absolute best facilitators and trainers into the webinar, and they bombed. And as we looked at why they bombed, we found out, number one, there's additional skills that you need when you're working virtually, but also there's a difference in the way that you design the interaction. So it was everybody's fault. The designers and the delivery people all had to learn. And this was in 2009, and we started working on that ever since then. So when in February, March, when COVID hit, I had this background. I'd been in Zoom already for about 3 years, and we just started sharing. And through that experience of the last 7 months, we've learned some stuff. We've learned some pretty good ideas of what's important, what works, what doesn't. And I wanted to put together some programs. But know this, as we work on this, and so we started doing this, and the very first thing that needed to happen is that people kind of lost hope, especially the people who are used to working in person. Whether you were a facilitator, a teacher, an event organizer. I worked with some fundraising people, and they just lost hope that they couldn't connect as well virtually as they could in person. But as soon as we started walking through, and this is Orienting the Virtual Platforms, was the first one that we did, because it was, I don't even know what my platform can do. And so we sat down and we started talking about, well, what can we do virtually? And at first we talked about Zoom, and then we started doing stuff in GoToMeeting and Microsoft Teams and Google Meets. And we found out there's some stuff that's across the board. You just need to explore your platform. So for instance, you have the stuff that's in your app, in Zoom or in WebEx, whatever it is. Know what your app can do. We already did that when we annotated the map of the United States. Annotation is a function that's in several of the different platforms that you can use. And you can always go in, look at that. Look at just the camera. If you're doing a virtual, we've already practiced this one as well. We asked, hey, can you see my screen okay? Give me a thumbs up. So look at things inside the app. And in Orienting to Virtual Platforms, that's one of the pre-made workshops that we can offer. We'll look at the stuff that's inside the app. We'll look at stuff that's alongside the app, like Mentimeter. I'll go back to see how you guys have been developing your Mentimeter slide. So this is something that as soon as we started talking about, what about stuff that we can use alongside our platform, that changed people's perspective of what's possible. Now, when it first started, if you'd been doing any of your conferencing platforms, you knew about the screens, you knew about your camera, you might even knew about sharing. Annotation, maybe. But as soon as you start putting, I can share my screen, and we can go to Mentimeter, and we can go to Google Slides or shared documents. All of a sudden, in the middle of the meeting, your options are just, you blow up your options into such a huge world, because you're now sharing your things that are alongside your app. One of the best workshops I went to back in 2010 was a workshop called the Webinar Manifesto. And I'll never forget one phrase that they talked about, which was learn the user guide of your platform. Look at exactly what they tell you to do, and then blow it up. Bend it to your will. Figure out, what do you want to accomplish, because they're going to tell you exactly how they want you to use their platform. But I want you to learn of how you can accomplish your outcomes and objectives using the platform, using something alongside the platform, or even using something outside the platform. So when we do the orientation of virtual platforms, we talk about those things: inside the app, alongside the app, and outside the app. We also discovered that there are basically 5 pipelines. Some people are talking about virtual engagements and connecting engagement through the virtual world. Well, regardless of what platform you're using, there are 5 pipelines for virtual connection and engagement. And we showed one of them is the visual. Your visual field, the camera, is so useful. For example, if I wanted to talk about the using just your camera, you could do a Likert scale. If you know what a Likert scale is, an evaluation tool that usually is in an evaluation form, but you can use it immediately to get feedback. And I'm going to remove the spotlight, and I'm going to go for our gallery view. So now, if you can turn on your camera, what I'd like you to do is, if you think that, let's see here. If you think that it's possible to engage people, that virtual platforms can be very, very engaging, I want to give me a fist of 5. Fist being that it never will engage anybody ever. 5 being that it's so easy to engage, you don't even have to think about it. Give me a fist of 5 if you agree or disagree with that statement. How engaging can virtual platform be? Totally engaging, fist of 5. I see some 4s, I see some 5s. So this is just using the in-camera to create some engagement. Another one, a great tool that our friend Tom Leahy uses, he has a whole new rules of thumb. So instead of just giving me a thumbs up to gain consensus and agreement, you can say, all right, let's do a rule of thumb to find out how connected do we feel. Thumbs up means that totally connected, I'm totally into it. Thumbs down mean not at all, but you all also have a gauge now. So you can talk about, all right, how connected do you feel? Give me a rule of thumb. Are you totally connected, partially connected, not connected at all? You just got some important information. You got some vital information about where people are at. So 5 pipelines to virtual connection. Number 1 is visual. Other is nonverbal, and different platforms have different ways that you can connect nonverbally. So I'm going to share a different screen. I'm going to share what I look at as the host. And in Zoom, you have some pretty cool options. First one you're probably aware of, which is the reactions down here at the bottom. A thumbs up if you can see my Zoom screen gallery view. Okay. So reactions, what I love about the reactions is that they're all positive. So now I can say, I can ask for feedback. And if somebody does something, gives a great comment or goes in, you can say, hey, let's give an applause. And that shows up on the screen for 5 seconds. So everybody just go to the reactions button and choose one of the reactions. I don't care which one. Have some fun with it. Yay, I see Brendan's having a party over there. Thank you, John. Now, other thing that you can do for nonverbal, these are nonverbal engagements, is you can use in your guys, if you go to the participant panel, you can go down, we don't have them turned on right now, but when they're turned on, you can give nonverbal feedback with thumbs up, raised hand, all that kind of stuff in the nonverbal. So you've got in 5 pipelines, and this is what we do in this workshop, we get a chance to explore all the different pipelines that you've got. You've got visual, you've got nonverbal, you've got interactive, that's like the annotation piece. You can do some things with Google Slides or shared documents. You have small groups. There's a couple of platforms that don't have small groups, but there's some workarounds in Microsoft Teams and Google Meet, but the other ones have small group opportunities. And you can leverage for engagement and connection, leverage those small groups to just up the amount of connection that people feel. And the last one is what I call the asynchronous or the ongoing interactions. And I look at that as like the white space. If you can picture in your brain the FedEx logo and the way that they highlight the arrow, they use negative or blank space. Well, we don't take advantage of all of that space that we have before meetings or in between meetings. So 5 pipelines for virtual engagement: visual, nonverbal, interactive, small groups, and ongoing or asynchronous. Asynchronous is a big fancy word. So I'm going to move on to the next workshop that we do. And again, these workshops are just designed based on our experience in the last 7 months. Now, we also work with people to customize workshops to your group to find out what it is you want to do. And getting to outcome is a big piece of, connection before content. But if you work in a business world, connection is important to get to outcomes. So in here, we talk about the 6 important pieces that you need to get to in any meeting that you're talking about. And what we do is we talk about the best methods to reach those outcomes. One is just connecting and team building is one, that's a viable outcome for any meeting that you do. And if you're having really engaging meetings, it'll be an outcome. So having engaging meetings. Another reason for meetings is information transfer. And that's pretty much where most people are stuck right now in virtual meetings. So they get on, and sad to say, but I've been on too many meetings that it's just reading a PowerPoint. And then people walk away going, wasn't that special? But you can also use virtual meetings to find agreement. When you have to get in and you have something that you need to move forward on and you need to find consensus and agreement, there are different ways and processes that you can use virtually to find agreement. Same thing goes with deciding, making a decision where you've got to lay everything up on the table, and then the group has to come to a point of decision based on the data that you got. There's ways that you can do that virtually. And I see too many organizations that are just leaving that on the table. They've done it before in meetings when they were live, and they think they can't get there virtually. Another piece is troubleshooting. How do you, when there's a crisis, and I don't know that any organization, there hasn't been any major crises over the past 7 months, but you've got to figure out, how do you respond? How do you troubleshoot in a time of crisis virtually? Again, you can't go into your design room, your some people call it a war room, a decision room, where you have everything up on the walls and you move things around. Well, guess what? You can approximate that process virtually. I use is it's called Mural, and Mural is really fun. And I'll show you, this is from a workshop that I did where they were all using it to create their own learning agendas and learning plans. But you go in, this is are you guys seeing my mural? Are you seeing this whiteboard? Normally, like in the workshop, we'd go in and we'd play in our own murals and figure it out. This is a spotlight, so we can't exactly get there. But so we go in, this is like a SWOT analysis based on, exploring your terrain, advantage and internal, advantage external, disadvantage internal, disadvantage external. And that's how you can figure out what lays ahead and how to leverage those things. Then we go down, and this is a design process. Brainstorm here. We brainstormed all these things over here. We brainstormed them over in this blank box. Once we did the brainstorm, we moved them over to important versus feasible, laid them out here based on that grid. From there, that's how we prioritized our way forward. And it was great to be able to come in here. We've done this with individuals, and we've done this with groups, 30, 40 people all working in the same design document. So that's an example of how you can actually get stuff done. Creativity and design can be done really effectively in the virtual world. And I want to encourage you, if you've got questions or things that you want to explore later on in our Q&A, go back to that Mentimeter slide, that polling slide, and you can ask those questions. So we'll also want to talk about, this is a passion of mine because my experience is during this pandemic and this rise in webinars, it's happening before, but now it's really prominent, is that we've gone back to the death by PowerPoint approach, but now it's worse because it's virtual. There's a lot of people, you go to a webinar and it's a talking head and a PowerPoint. And they're not asking you to engage. They're not changing the visual field at all. In fact, there's a lot of webinars that are just a PowerPoint slide with a voiceover. And we want to avoid the death by webinar approach. So there's a workshop that we can do that'll help you understand, how do you become more effective presenting in the virtual context. And it's not just doing live, But how do you get that same feel when you're doing pre-recorded stuff? Because that's happening a whole bunch now, is that you pre-record a webinar and then you just repeat it over and over again. It's a great way to sell a bunch of stuff, but it isn't necessarily making the content sticky. So I want to share a video, really short video that we put together, and get that up there. So this is just a real taste, a quick taste of what we talk about in the Avoiding Death by Webinar. And also, this is something that I send out when we're putting together a workshop or a conference or an event. I'll send this out to the presenters just so that they get an idea of what they can do. Everybody hearing that okay?
Webinars are becoming more and more common. If you want to stand out as a presenter, you're going to have to learn how to connect and engage with your audience. Your participants are surrounded by distractions. If you want to keep their attention, you need to ask them to engage every 3 to 5 minutes. When you ask them to move, type, click, or talk, you pull their attention back to your presentation. Here are 5 easy ways to connect with your audience and make your message stick. First, get to know your video or webinar platform. Take advantage of the tools that are already built into it. Second, use the camera. Ask your participants to give you a thumbs up, perhaps even do a fist of 5, where fist being 0, 5 being the highest rating, but use the visuals to engage your people. Third, many platforms have built-in reactions and emojis. Ask for a thumbs up if they agree, or have them raise their hand in response to a question. 4, use screen share along with slides or a whiteboard and get your participants to add to the content. 5, use a poll to check in with your participants, introduce a concept, or get feedback. These days, people expect a lot more from webinars than a one-way interaction with a talking head and a slide. If you use one of these 5 methods every 3 to 5 minutes, your presentation will stand out from the crowd.
So that gives you a taste, a really quick taste of the Avoiding Death by Webinar workshop. Some of the things that we cover additionally to these things are what are the transferable skills for virtual presentation from in person? How to use your visuals, not just how you appear in the camera, but what camera you use, how you use backgrounds, green screens, lighting. We talk about audio, making sure that the audio is easy for people to hear and not distracting. We talk about engagement and interactions, go deeper in that in some of the other workshops, but we do hit on that for pre-recorded and live webinars. We also talk about the design. How do you design your presentation for the virtual world? Because like I said, we learned the lesson that it's a different design process in order to make your webinar sticky. A couple of other things that I want to remind people of is that going to spotlights, as wonderful as they are, or doing demonstrations or going to workshops are great, but until you start practicing, and this is something we started back in February, March, we started creating guided practice groups. We know the famous quote about 10,000 hours to mastery. Well, it's not just any kind of practice. That practice needs to be intentional. You need to get feedback, and you need some good coaching based on your practice. I would encourage, we do these virtual guided practice groups, but if you can get a group of professionals together so that you can try out your stuff before you do it on clients, practice is the key. You can be informed and start to get excited about what's possible, but until you start practicing it, you won't gain mastery except through guided practice, intentional practice. And then want to talk about something that's just coming out that Tim and I have talked about, but we're working on it right now. I'm currently doing a couple of different conferences. Now, raise your hand. Have you attended a virtual conference in the last 5 months? Have you attended a virtual conference? Okay. Now I'm talking about what used to be in person, where you go to the professional conferences, you go all these different places. And what we've learned, at least my experience is, for the most part, virtual conferences are a series of webinars, some of them death by webinar, some of them really engaging, or they're a YouTube playlist. And sometimes they might have chat going on along the side of those things. But I go to conferences, I'm sent to conferences for the content. You know, that's why we sign up, because we can justify to our organization, it's got really strong content. But I arrive for the connections. And I haven't been impressed with how these different virtual platforms have been connecting. So I've been working on, I've got a background in conferencing, from camps and conference centers to professional conferences. I've helped design and deliver these things. And the one thing that's missing has been that connection. So we are putting together a customizable virtual events platform that includes you can pre-record or you can live stream. You can do Zoom-like interactions, but you also have a community that you can do. So you can have news feeds, you can chat back and forth individually. We've even figured out a way to do like an event center, a vendor show, where you can actually go like it's a booth and talk with the vendors instead of going to a landing page where they collect your email information. So we're excited to move that direction as well in the virtual platforms. So all this to say, one, we've got these pre-made workshops that you could ask us to deliver right away. And you can go to, info@granddynamics.com. You can go to that email. We'll share that kind of stuff. And we have special rates if you attend these spotlights. So make sure, if you communicate with anybody about doing one of these workshops, let us know that you heard about it at the spotlight, and we've got special rates for that. We also want to encourage you to think in terms of, what do you want to accomplish? Bottom line is, don't think about what virtual platforms can do. Think about what you want to accomplish, and then make the virtual platform work for you. Too often we start with our limitations rather than starting with our outcomes. And if you start with your outcomes, first thing you say is, this is what I want to accomplish. And then either you can find a way, or we can help you find a way to get to those outcomes in virtual. But also, as we pass through this, how do you apply what you learn from the pandemic, from this time in virtual space? How does that translate into the new real world encounters that you're going to do? And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Tim, and we're going to go to a little bit of Q&A time, question and answer time for you. Are you seeing my slides now? Okay,
Sure.
Good.
Well,
and the way that we want to do that is, if you go back to Mentimeter, and I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to get to the right platform here. And we're going to go to some questions, but I want to turn it back over to Tim, and Tim's going to ask some questions here. And then we're going to respond to the questions that you have for us. So as it's going along, if you want to post some more questions into the polling slide, I'll put the link back up there for you, and we'll get going. So, Tim.
Well, first of all, let's give John a nice round of applause. Yeah, John. All right. And the design, or the idea behind this spotlight, was number one, to just orientate everyone to various different ways to think about delivering virtual meetings and events. And the idea here was to give the introduction. A lot of our other spotlight events are more focused on experiential, the magic show, and virtual entertainment, more engagement in having those types of experiences. Same thing with the gaming and things like that. So what I'd like to know is maybe the questions. We're going to get into the questions and answers now, and have a little dialogue about the various different platforms and what John's been talking about. In the chat, if you could just chat a few words about John's presentation, or anything that's come up for you so we can all have a shared view of any comments that you'd like to share in the chat. That would be great. And then we'll go right into the first Q&A and add some comments, some commentary. So yeah, here we go. So what do we got for questions on the?
Well, right now we got a question. I'll share. Somebody wants to know more about asynchronous pipeline of engagement. Yeah, that's a mouthful, isn't it? And the idea between synchronous and asynchronous is when you're doing a live webinar, when you're doing a live workshop at the same time, everybody's in the same space at the same time. That's called synchronous. And that can be in person, or it could be what we're doing right now. This would be a synchronous engagement that we're talking about. So when I talk about asynchronous or ongoing, that's where you can leverage communities. You can say, like, if you set up a Facebook community or a member-based community, then you can continue the conversation after the event's done, and people can do it at their leisure. Whenever they want to respond, they can respond. I showed you the mural, and that's something that's open 24/7. There's whiteboards and other collaborative software out there that you can keep open 24/7, and people can interact with it whenever they want. If you have a Google shared document, shared slides, or even Microsoft, you can share the Word documents and PowerPoints. People can go in there and edit and make changes whenever they want. So the idea of how do you extend the engagement past the event and you keep them coming back. So that's when I talk about asynchronous pipeline, I'm talking about how to use that empty space, the white space before and between your live meetings. So does that make sense? Okay.
We had one question, John, about, have you heard of Socio? SOCIO?
No, I'd love to hear about it though.
Well, Jeremy, if you're there, want to maybe mention what that is?
No, I was curious when you were talking about the virtual conference software or whatever it was that you're working on. I had messaged Tim and just asked if he had heard of Socio, which is a similar type platform, at least based on the way I heard you say that. So I wasn't sure if anybody had heard of that.
Yeah, there's a ton of virtual platforms that are springing up every day. So every time I talk about it, I hear 3 or 4 different platforms that are out there, and they're all, I mean, I can't talk bad about any of the platforms because they deliver what you are looking for if you engage them. And I just don't think people are looking for more than they think. They focus on what's been done and not what's possible. And what I want to do is work with groups and say, all right, tell me what you want to accomplish. I've been doing conferences for years and years, and honestly, I don't go for the content. I go for the connections. I go for the people I can interact with. So that's what I'm focusing on. And there's lots of good ways to do it. We just landed on one that seems pretty cool. I'm always curious about what's happening out there, because I know that there's price ranges, there's the details of the engagement, there's how the video is done. So there's lots of great solutions out there. I just think we can offer one that's right in there too.
John, how about that tool, like the spinning tool, that wheel tool?
Okay, yeah, that's called Flippity.
That's a pretty cool thing. Has anyone heard of Flippity? Raise your hand if you've heard of Flippity. Okay, handful of people. It's pretty cool. Let's do a little sample one of those. It's
I'll go back to, let's see here. Let me get to the right spot. So it's a site called flippity.net. And it's an interactive, but it's one-way interaction. Not everybody can access it. So I'm doing my Flippity randomizer wheel. I click it, and in fact, let's do this right now. I'm gonna turn off the spotlight. Go ahead. I'm gonna click this again, and then stand up, reach up, and let's do a side stretch. So go ahead, and if you can stand up, let's get some movement in. We've been going for 40 minutes now. That's I like to build in movement every 30 to 40 minutes, usually 25 to 30 minutes if I can. And this is so quick. You do it again, and look, ankle spin. So this just get the creaks out of your ankle. that doesn't look really impressive on the screen, but if you're moving your ankles around. And thanks for reminding me, Tim. I forgot to bring that up. But with Flippity, that's just one example of what you can do. You go to...
You can create this interactive wheel, and you can create discussion points. If you want to have an icebreaker, you can choose questions. You can choose various different objects, names, and then you can have a breakout room and you having conversations, you know, for breakouts.
Everything from you can do like this is a quiz show, so you can do Jeopardy. You can create scavenger hunts. If you can create refrigerator magnets and move them around. So Flippity is a free and really easy tool to develop some interaction. It's one-way interaction, but you can still guide it. I use the refrigerator magnets so that I can create some movement on the screen, as I talked about the Tuckman model of group process. So you can geek out that way too.
John, you can make it a two-way platform if you use the share remote in Zoom. So when you're doing the wheel, you could share the remote with me and I could click on it and spin it. If you're using the manipulatives, I can move it around.
Yeah, I've done that. And that's totally true. And I've done that before, but then I always usually get in a wrestling match trying to get control back of the mouse. A different way that you can do the shared interaction where everybody has a chance to do it is creating it in either Jamboard or Google Slides. And that way everybody can log into it and everybody can control it all at the same time. So there's lots of great ways. And that's what I love about what's been happening is that once people have the vision that you can go beyond the app, go beyond your platform, man, we found people using Google Slides, using PowerPoint, using all kinds of different whiteboards that are out there. There's just so many different options once you open your eyes to it. So
I'd like to toss it out to the group. We have a lot of people that are doing facilitation and various different programs. Does anyone have a favorite tool like the Flippity or like a website or something like that that you are currently using or have seen in a virtual event that you think is a really, really great tool? Does anyone have something like that? Or maybe you can toss it in the chat. Just curious, throw it out there. Does anyone have something top of mind that you'd like to share from this group? Miro is another one of those, like Mural. It's a virtual whiteboard. That's another one that's pretty cool. Miro, M-I-R-O. Yep.
Yeah, and that was a question that some people had about, other than Mentimeter, what are some other tools that are out there? Internally, you have Zoom's polling. But you basically have one type of question, you have multiple choice. It's great that it's built in and you've got to do it before you start the meeting. But you go out to Mentimeter, you go out to Poll Everywhere is another really, really good platform. And these all existed before the pandemic, but you saw them at conferences. And at the conference, general session, everybody can get involved by doing a poll. Well, we just translated that into the virtual world. So Mentimeter and Poll Everywhere. There's a couple other polling software that's pretty cool. Miro and Mural are very similar, and there's several other collaborative software that's out there. What other ones have you guys seen that are pretty cool? Okay.
So I'll give Marshall, you had a question in the chat room about, some different icebreakers. I'll just give one quick example.
Robert Strong, the magician in the community, he's like, I just put on the TV.
Nice. Nice like that background there. And then actually, John, as soon as I share this, maybe we can do a quick little, like, what are some features on Zoom that the most recent updates? Mm-hmm. So Zoom's being updated all the time. Some really cool features on there that I'm constantly learning, right? So real quick, icebreaker, that's a good one. Stop, start, continue. Very quick icebreaker, which is having a conversation around something you want to stop doing, want to start doing, and continue doing. But you can also combine it with getting some objects or some things around your house or your office that are color oriented. So you can have a red, green, yellow, in not necessarily that order. So find an object that's close by, showcase that object. Maybe that relates to the stop, start, continue, and then you're creating a conversation with a little bit of physical movement around the house. That's a very simple icebreaker that you can use in breakout rooms, and it leads to various different conversations. Another thing that we've done, the cool thing is like be doing these practice groups, these 2-hour practice groups. We've been doing just countless initiatives in various different types of programming. You know, using the flippity, if you just have words, 6 different words, and you can choose a sequence, and then you can have a team create a storyline or a poem in a few minutes in a breakout room or together, and create and share that. That's another just simple way to look at all the different creative ways that people are approaching things in the conversation. So you can choose those words, you can randomize them, you can give them in a sequence. But you know, a lot of it is about just having a little bit of time to have conversations with people in breakout rooms and then sharing and things like that. I'm really excited for you guys to check out Robert's presentation on Thursday, because the whole magic and the the engagement and doing different activities where you're learning a small skill and then you're presenting that is also another just fantastic way for engagement, doing the virtual engagement.
Yeah, and Marshall asked a great question: what type of engaging icebreakers work well virtually, especially for a group that hasn't formed yet? And know that next week Jim Kane's going to do a whole spotlight session on just that. But Tim, you get one of the best tools that I've learned is to allow people to share their stories. So if you put them in a breakout room with 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 people in the breakout room, and then give them something to prompt their story. Tell me about what is the best thing that you bring to a team or whatever. And you give them just a few minutes to share their story with somebody else. They're going to bring the connection they feel in that small group back to the big group. So, but Jim's going to do a whole spotlight just on that topic next week. So real quick, if you want to see a couple of things before we transition into what's next, couple of cool things in the latest update on Zoom is I can change the order of the screens now. So if I can move people around, if I wanted, that's kind of a cool feature. Robert discovered the filters. So now if you go down here, you can choose a video filter and you can do everything from like screen tones, or you can put like, if I wanted to, Robert being magical could do the screen where that's a stage.
So John, where is that? Where's the filter? Maybe let's have everyone do a quick filter. Yeah, where's the filter located?
Okay, if you go down to right next to the camera, there's a little up arrow or a caret. You click on that and you choose your video filter. Now, if you haven't updated your, it may not be available unless you've updated in the last couple of weeks. So, does it all right, I like Jeremy's looking with the mask and the fedora.
Yeah. It takes away your virtual background though, if you do that, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll pause on that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't. I can get the overlay on my virtual background.
Wow.
Somebody has some good intelligence here. Jennifer says that if your computer allows that Zoom update, some older versions won't upgrade. Yeah, there's, I wish we could get it. I mean, that's what the workshops are for, is getting into the deep demonstration and a little bit of practice on all this. So we're excited to be able to offer this to you guys as part of the Spotlight series. And I'm going to throw it back over to Tim in the last few minutes here to talk about what's coming and where we go from here.
Yeah, awesome. John, would you mind just bringing up the Spotlight series page, or I guess I could share my.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. Just to give you, and then, just to throw this out there, it's great to see all you guys of various different walks of life, coming in and being a part of Grand Dynamics from various different clients and programs and facilitators. So, this is like a new adventure for all of us, right? And certainly has been for me. I'm excited about some of our live events that we have coming up. We're going to be doing a whole lot of cold immersion workshops here in Jackson Hole. And we got a fire and ice event coming up that we're launching, which is fire walking and cold immersion and mindset. And we're going to be doing some virtual cold immersion workshops here coming up once it gets really cold in the winter, right? You have to have some, really freezing temperatures to make it as yet. But so the virtual spotlight series, John, just scroll down a little bit, and today's obviously, again, if you're interested in following up, John hosts open enrollment workshops, and we'll be doing some open enrollment workshops, so like having a deeper dive into some of these different things that are going to be open enrollment. But obviously, the large majority of our programs are designed for specific impact teams. So if you have a particular focus on the technology or the engagement or anything that comes up from these other events, then obviously we want you to reach out to us so we can create a program to help you, whatever the context is. And then maybe it's team building, maybe it's a corporate event. One of the events we've been creating is creating a customized golf tournament for a charity fundraiser that was canceled. So it's now going virtual. So every different type of, we have such a creative team, and just love the idea of here's the outcome we want, here's the challenge that we're facing, let's pull together these resources. And these are just a few of them. So we have the technology and all the different engagement type workshops. Thursday, we have a unbelievable, Robert, I can't even see the gallery view here, but we have one of the best comedy magicians that I've ever witnessed. And you had Robert Strong is going to be delivering a fantastic program on Thursday with icebreakers and magic, and you're going to learn some magic tricks that you're actually going to be able to use virtually and by your with your teams. And we're going to showcase some of the different entertainment options to really create engaging virtual meetings. Robert's performed for 2 presidents. He's been voted San Francisco's best comedian, best magician for multiple years. So his program is awesome. I mean, literally, you're gonna see disappearing acts to card tricks to super fun, engaging things that you'll be able to do right away. So that's coming up on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Our virtual events gamified is really all about using mobile apps, mobile apps and web browser and various different games. So whodunits, murder mysteries, scavenger hunt type events. If you came to the Corona Times Virtual Adventure, there's all sorts of different iterations of that platform. And it's really about the gamification of different virtual experiences and how we can create those. And we have lots of cool customized events we've been doing using that platform. And the Who Kidnapped the Boss is super fun. So Warren will be spotlighting that. Virtual team building, one of the godfathers of experiential education, if you will. One of the guys who's been doing this for the longest and one of the best, frankly, is Jim Kane. And he wrote Teamwork and Team Play. He has like a PhD in creating games. So I don't even know what his PhD is. It was PhD in fun, but so Jim Kane's going to be with us, and you can actually get to experience some of these different virtual icebreakers and initiatives. And we're going to have a series of those icebreakers and initiatives, all the classic stuff that you might have experienced with Grand Dynamics in the past, with team building activities, trust building, problem solving. We're going to get to experience that, and we're going to have lots of fun and brainstorming. So you're going to walk away with lots of those types of tools. And if you want to book a specific team building type of program, this is the type of program that we want to showcase for that. The next one, we have virtual charity events and give back events featuring Mr. Matt Campana, who's also joining us today. We'll feature the Hands of Gratitude, where we're virtually and literally sending out hands that can be built to be sent to people in need. And that's just one type of charity event that we want to focus on. But if you know someone or you have a charity event, that annual golf event has been canceled, and you're trying to raise money and use team building at the same time and just create a great big virtual give back event, that's going to be that spotlighted program. So bring your questions and ideas for that one. And then last, certainly not least, super excited to launch our Adventure Spotlight. Now, this is going to be the beginning of what we're going to be doing with this particular series. And we're going to have a series of interviews with stories and strategy using adventure to help us navigate the pandemic and whatever we're going through as we navigate into 2021. So Charlie Engel, fascinating story. You're going to love to meet this guy. He is just truly one of a kind. He ran across the Sahara Desert, over 4,000 miles, over 2 marathons a day for over 140 days interstate or something. So he'll tell you his wild story, and then we'll take some of the strategies around, like, how do you navigate, using adventure as your guide? How do you, look at stress tolerance? How do you look at problem solving? How do you build resiliency? Some of those ideas with some, from free divers to climbers to ultra runners, and then applying the same thing in sport and business. So that's what we have in store for you for the rest of this particular programming. And obviously, we just want to put this out there to create some engagement, and we're going to create a platform where people can come together and share stories and challenges that we're all working with, and just continue to navigate this terrain together. So that's what we have coming. Do we have any other questions, or would anyone like to ask a question to the group in the last couple minutes we have here before we wrap up? Or have a comment about, I'd love to hear a comment about something you learned. How we do that? Put one thing you learned into the chat room, or some insight that you gained. And if someone would like to share a comment, I'd love to actually hear from you guys. And again, I'll be hanging out for a little while longer. I know we're coming close to the end of the hour, but I'm just excited to see everyone here. So again, thank you so much for joining. Does anyone have, or John, maybe can we do one thing? Create the biggest gallery view you can, and give some sort of like an engaging hello. This is like our first spotlight series from the group, so.
Yeah, let's go ahead and share your picture. Make sure you got your video on, and let's see if we can't get as many people in here as possible.
Yeah, if you're back there and you can turn your video on, we have a whole bunch of people that are actually, so we're not sharing the people that don't have our video on. There's a lot of people actually that are joining without the video. So if you're back there and you want to turn it on, great. Otherwise, we'll keep the gallery here.
Yeah, so we've got some people who don't have access to their video, but let's do this. All I want you to do is, I don't know who you're going to be giving high fives to the side, but what we want to do is put your hands up like this, up to the side of the screen, and just start giving high fives to the people around you.
Jeremy, are you feeling me right there?
I've got Jeremy right next to me.
You? Wait a minute.
I got Tim. Sure. Now go ahead and put your hands down, and now move your screen. Let's see. Can we do this? Oh no, I can't do it while I'm sharing. But you should be able to move your screen into next to somebody who you want to give a high five to. So if you can move your screen now, let's do it one more time. Get some good footage here. High fives next door. Here we go. Ready, go. And now let's go up and down. Okay. So high fives up and down. All right. It's almost like the pat your head and rub your belly thing. There's a coordination piece in there. All right. Well, thank you for playing.
So I just, again, want to say, if you have to take off, that's great. But I would like to just, again, thank everyone for showing up here today for the first, and please spread the word about the Spotlight series, about these other events. And for me, this is just like, it's a continuous exploration of the adventure of the whole thing. So who knows what's going to come out of this? Obviously, we want to keep delivering experiences. We're excited for live events coming back. But I'm even more excited about creating some really cool experiences. I mean, how many here would be interested in a cold immersion virtual, where we go through the strategies of breathing and cold immersion, and we actually do that together, right? I know Kim, that's a big smile. I could see you smiling right there, right? Why not? I know everyone's like, yeah, maybe not. Fire walking? Would you rather walk on fire or go into a cold, bucket of ice, or both?
Kim doesn't seem to be very impressed.
Well,
good
anyway,
with fire. Good with fire.
Who'd like to share a comment about the presentation today, or John's an insight maybe you gained or something like that? I'd just love to hear a few comments about
this. This is our first one, so we're learning.
Yeah.
I think only because my mic's off, I think I'll jump in. I speak a lot at virtual conferences, and one of the challenges is when they don't allow you to have Zoom, right? So you're forced into that webinar, and so you don't have all the same interactive tools that the other platforms have for you. And as somebody who's a highly energetic speaker, I will caution anybody else who's presenting that if you haven't found this already, I am more exhausted, as you try and climb through the computer to reach everybody on the other side. It is, I just find that I need to make sure I have enough balance of self-care after, large presentations, because it does tires me a little bit differently than giving a presentation live.
Yeah, you really need to find a different place. If you get your energy from the crowd, you're going to expend just as much energy presenting, but you're not going to get it back from that live crowd. So you have to find different and new ways to get that kind of energy. And for me, what I found, same thing, Kim, but what I found is as soon as I realized if I'm asking for engagement, even if I don't get it, it comes in little bits afterwards where people say, hey, thank you for involving me. Even though I can't see them raise their hand, I can't see them move around, I can't see a lot of stuff we get in the interactivity in Zoom. Getting those words back of saying, just the fact that you asked me to do something helped me connect. I search for that energy too. It's tough.
Nice. Who else would like to share a comment? Marshall, how about you? Did you taking something away from today's presentation?
Yeah, I mean, I see some of the, I've never left the Zoom platform. I do a ton of Zoom, and we've always opted to not leave because we're afraid people will get onto their emails and stuff. Once they're out, they're out.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of mine, but it was neat that I had not used the Menti thing or whatever that was. The thing you did at the beginning, the word cloud, that was fun because you see the results of your own input happening on the screen. So that's pretty cool to experience that.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's super, super cool.
Yeah, no, that was fun to see.
Cool.
So I'm excited to see more. Unfortunately, I'm doing full-time online facilitation over the next 2 weeks. I won't be able to make these, but I'm looking forward to maybe watching a recording if possible or something.
Yeah, we'll get the recordings going, and
yeah. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super cool.
Hey, I want to do a plug for John. You ready? I made you laugh. So I was on, I'm facilitator outside, bring people close together like all of us. And John came into my world, and I had done some other facilitation with him, and it's helped me so much. So I highly recommend that if you're looking at facilitating with other people and you need to practice, go see John. And I mean that sincerely, John Baldy.
Thanks, Ken.
Oh, absolutely, Tim.
Awesome. That's great. Anyone else want to share a comment about this program today or future?
I think for me, one of the takeaways was how often you really need to engage people every 3 to 5 minutes is quite frequently to keep them with you in the virtual world. So that's takes a bit of thinking through and planning that maybe you don't, it's a little bit more challenging to do maybe in the virtual platform.
Well, it like when I first heard that, I said, that's impossible. You can't do that. And it does take some intention, but once you get in the groove, very first time I experienced it, I knew it was true, but the first time I experienced it, the woman who was leading the webinar, it was so natural just to every once in a while, hey, give me a thumbs up if you're tracking on this. Hey, tell me if you agree with this in the comments. And she had limited tools. Zoom has so many cool tools that you can get to. And it's just a matter of changing your mindset. And Marshall, when no matter if you have them keep them in Zoom or not keep them in Zoom, you just have this much space, and all they have to do is look off to the side and they're gone, whether it's their messy desk or their email. So I found that if you're asking them every 3 minutes, you're keeping them engaged. If you're waiting 5 or 6 minutes, you're re-engaging because they're gone. Especially if they're
good
like
point. Keeping engagement versus re-engagement, because it's hard to get them back, right? Once you lost them. So keep them stringing along, it's better. And
Yeah.
we use polls a lot within Zoom, like a ton of polls. We preload them in our templates and just ask lots of questions and share results. But I'll keep that in mind with it. We do about 7 minutes. I like 3 to 5 better. So thanks for that.
And it's just as simple as giving me a thumbs up or, hit the reaction button. That's so simple.
Right.
But then you do maybe a bigger engagement with a breakout room. It's just get them to click, type, or talk, or even write.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, we use Chatterfall quite a bit. You didn't mention that. That's something that we like to use. That's where we ask a question and people type into the chat, and then I count down 3, 2, 1, hit enter. They all stream up, and we start them soft, like what's your favorite food, and then we move into more intense ones later on.
Yeah,
and those are fun.
Yeah. Again, internal. That's all in the app, and that keeps it simple for the participants. We find that I try and only keep it to 1 or 2 types of engagement, because I like shiny things. So when I first started doing this, I would do everything. We're going to do a Mentimeter. We're going to do mural. We're going to do chat. And it's just too much. And we spent the first 45 minutes orienting people to everything. Well, and that's one of the things that I learned is that for some reason, when we first started doing this, we didn't think that we had to orient people to the platform. But if you go to a conference or you go to a challenge course or you go anywhere, they spend time just even telling you where the restroom is. And yet we thought we could jump right in and just start doing content even before connection, but even before just teaching them about the tool that we're in. So even just teaching them, how do we want to use chat? We're going to use it this way. So.
Like that. Yeah. Any other comments, questions from the gallery? It literally is a gallery. You can actually, the peanut gallery, but it's, it's literally a gallery.
Yeah. So Jen, can you share what you just posted in the comments a little bit more about what the Forest Service is doing? If that's possible.
Yeah, so it's not agency wide, but I work for a unit where we're all virtual across the country. And just seeing that we're going to have a meeting norms is kind of alarming when different personalities participate very differently in a virtual environment, even way different than they do in the in person. So some of today's discussion has sparked some thinking for me on how to respond to that. I think leadership needs to do a double take on what they're trying to force.
That's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what the meeting norms are. I mean, just the baseline, what we understand about human behavior psychology. And, if you look at behavioral styles, for example, people have very different behavioral styles in terms of task, relationship, process, things like that. And, it's another thing to consider as you're doing your virtual meetings. Are you getting to the what, the why, the who, the how, and are you addressing those needs for people who may want to be introverted versus extroverted, and how are you facilitating and allowing the space? That becomes a facilitation issue where you're actually giving room for people to engage and share in the space in different modalities. Some people feel a lot more comfortable, with the chat. Some people, want to actually hear their voice and share things like that. And we all have different virtual backgrounds. I mean, I like the mountains, my remodel isn't finished yet, so it's all right. But anyway, to the point is, Jan, thank you for coming in today, and hopefully that some of these ideas will stimulate some different perspectives on norms, because it's so difficult to have norms in a situation where we're constantly evolving. The evolving, sure have guidelines, but I wish you the best with that.
Yeah, and I say, Jan, if you get a chance, reach out to Tim or myself if you want to talk through that. Peg put in here about practicing 4 preview practice sessions. If you're not practicing, you're not going to get it right. And I feel really, I love our teachers, and they're put in such a hard place in that they are having to perform without doing practice. The first time they try a lot of stuff is with students. And man, that is just, it's nerve-wracking. And you've got to give yourself a lot of grace towards that. But if you get a chance to practice, even if it's just an element of a workshop that you're doing or the entire piece of the workshop, you know, these guided practice groups that we started and that we're working with, it not only gives you a chance to practice, it creates a really encouraging and supportive community that helps you work through a lot of this stuff with really informed feedback, some good coaching, and just ideas.
Yeah, I can't speak enough to the actual practice groups. It's kind of like a master. It's sort of like a mastermind for virtual presenting, but just creating the space, you know, is one great way to do it. I mean, on your calendar, here's my Zoom open space, and it's how it started with, you know, with John, you know, ultimately leading to something like this, where it's like, hey, we don't even know is going to come out of this hour-long block, but let's put it on the calendar. And hey, I got an idea. I want to share this icebreaker. I want to have, you know, share this new concept. I want to share this business strategy, and, you know, schedule it and it becomes real, right? That's the old adage where you create the space to create new things. And a lot of this virtual kind of programming and training is about just dedicating the time to allow yourself to think through and bounce things and ideas and feedback off people. So highly encouraged to do that. And Bennett, love your comment. Do you want to share about your comment there, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't know if you guys can hear me because my video's not working. Can you see me?
You're good. You're good.
Yep.
Okay, outstanding. So, John, I met you one day. I was over there. Tim's probably bored of my background.
Yeah, you were drumming.
Yeah, exactly. So my background, I'm clinically trained as a PA, and we're called physician assistants, but we prefer physician associates. No big deal. I know my scope of practice, what have you. But it's a really good way to get to know somebody. And when you're in clinical care, a lot of stuff, like about 80% of what we see on a typical day is a psychiatric cause to their physical illness. And it's a really good icebreaker just to develop a therapeutic alliance between provider and patient. And I think it's a really good platform for exactly what we're doing here and getting to know people. And you'll be really surprised too. People have a difficult time saying why they have value, why they matter. It's really, really interesting. So I just thought I'd throw that into the mix, and maybe we could use that in the future and even get to know one another this day forward.
Yeah, awesome. And Matt Immersion wrote a book, Every Monday Matters. I think you might have just mentioned that there. But yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And it really kind of gets down to the core, you know, of you know, the human side of connection, because I think a lot of what we take for granted with actual face-to-face, it opens up those conversations, but you have to actually create those conversations in the virtual more importantly than when you know, when we're having these live experiences. So
yeah, I agree. And everybody on here, you know, just seeing everybody on here is like, it just dying to know more about them. You know, what brought everybody here? Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? I want to learn so much more. So I look forward to more of these platforms, and I'll be definitely tuning in. Hopefully you don't need to see my mug, but I'll figure out my camera somehow. I might have to buy a new computer, but it is what it is.
So just to bring them up, I was introduced to the concept of, they call it the pain revolution, researched by a guy named G.L. Moseley, which is talking about the psychology of pain, but basically all pain starts in your brain.
Yeah.
And my physical therapist, after I had knee replacement surgery, turned me onto this stuff. And it's really powerful to talk about how just understanding the mechanism of it's all the same limbic system and protective mode. It's understanding that a lot of your pain is a protective mechanism. And it's just fascinating. It's really interesting stuff.
Outstanding. Hey, say that again, Jono.
It's the guy's name. I'm trying to figure out where the institute is. It's out of Australia. Professor Lorimer Moseley is the guy's name, And they have a whole research. Physical therapy is based in physical therapy, but what they're trying to get to is that people, like exactly what you said, a lot of your pain is associated with protection.
Yeah.
And it tends
Well
to
put.
flare up in different places.
Magnificent. Thank you.
NOI is the NOI group is the group that if you search that, you'll find more info.
Okay. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank everyone again. I don't want to get into the pain of having a meeting run too long and then people feel about wanting to leave, but don't want to stay here. But please join us for the rest of the Spotlight series. If you have a specific email or, just want to have, questions or want to brainstorm about something, Tim at graindynamics.com. You've been getting all my emails probably, and we're super excited about recreating, and if you have an idea to share with us, I mean, this is this adventure isn't going away, right? We are going to be continually creating these new experiences, and as we do get back into live events, it's going to be a hybrid of some sort, like the follow-up, the pre-meetings, the engaging, all that sort of stuff. So we're excited to be just extending, creating the space for the conversation and bringing people in from all sorts of different walks of life. And of all these different programs that we're doing is really kind of the foundation for here, think a little bit differently about some of these different ways to create engagement. And whether it's hiring Grand Dynamics or not, we want basically to have a positive impact for everyone that's being kind of leading the way in this new revolution of virtual events. So with that, thank you, John, for a great presentation, and thanks, everyone. One final wave here to each other, and we'll give you the big thumbs up, and we'll looking forward to see you on Thursday. All right. So thanks for coming, everybody. Have a great
Happy Tuesday, y'all.
Cheers.
All righty.